the baby wasn't getting enough from me to continue to grow. And I had to let him go.
Welcome back to the Mind Valley podcast. Our guest today has so much incredible energy. I can't wait to bring her live with all of you. So I'm a big believer in the human mind's capacity to influence reality. In my work, I call it bending reality. And I love people who are bringing these ideas in a deeper way into the world because it gives people hope. When we understand that we are not the victims of an unfair world, but that we can shift the world, it gives us incredible personal power to step out of whatever is bringing us down and take action to improve our lives and the reality around us. And Gabby Bernstein is one of the foremost authors in this field. Her books have been bestsellers for many, many, many years. And today we're going to be talking about her newest book, Happy Days, The Guided Path from Trauma to Profound Freedom and Inner Peace. Now, Gabby has also written some incredible books such as Spirit Junkie, Super Attractor. I love this title, The Universe Has Your Back. Books such as Judgment Detox and Miracles Now. And you can see a full list of her books. And you can also get information on her latest book, which was just released and already hit #1 in the category of women's personal spiritual growth on Amazon. So the book is called Happy Days. Go ahead and type in Happy Days Gabrielle, Gabrielle, Happy Days Gabrielle on Google. And the first link that comes up is going to be the Amazon page. Scroll a little below and you will see a list of all of Gabby's books. And of course, I've put Gabby on stage at A-Fest. She has blown the audience away. And I'm so excited to have her here on the Mind Valley podcast. So welcome back to Mind Valley, Gabby.
So happy to be back with you.
Let's start with a quick update on your life. So many people watching this know about you. You have over 1 million followers on Instagram. And the last 2 years, have been really years of upheaval for almost all of us because of the pandemic. What has been going on in your life? What have you discovered? What have you learned? Where are you now? I've
been through a lot in the last few years, particularly in this past 6 months, really. I spent 2020 doing IVF treatment to try to conceive another child. And I also was in my car over and over trying to, driving back and forth to the doctor, working on ideating and studying to write this book, Happy Days. And by the grace of God, I wound up getting pregnant with I had one healthy embryo after a year of trying and 9 IVF treatments, which anyone who's done fertility treatment knows that's extreme. I got pregnant and I was 5.5 months pregnant 3 months ago. And unfortunately, the baby wasn't getting enough from me to continue to grow. And I had to let him go at 5.5 months. So I'm 3 months in my grieving process. And I'm extremely proud to say, Vishen, that everything I write about in this book and everything that I've been teaching for decades, it works. And I was able to ground myself in a pillow of faith and a sense of inner safety that I never thought was possible. And it's there in my life right now. And I can see really clearly how everything I've been teaching others is actually absolutely 100% the path to moving through whatever shows up in your life. And the more work you do on yourself before big things happen, the easier it is to move through those difficult times.
Wow. I'm so sorry you had to experience that. I understand that pain because my former wife and I went through the same experience in 2013. We lost a baby in week 6. And I remember what I went through. And it was the worst month of my entire life. And it was the saddest and the deepest sadness I'd ever felt in my life up to then. Mm-hmm. So I sympathize with what you're going through and how brave of you to come out of this and also to write a book that can give so many people an uplift in their lives.
Yeah. And I'd already written the book before this happened. It was already in the process of being printed. And it was interesting to look back and say, oh, this is what you've been training for. You've been going on this radical journey of spiritual and personal growth and therapeutic processes to come to a moment like this and really be able to show up for it with grace.
So give us an idea. What compelled this book, and what is the key message of this book?
So the book is called Happy Days, and the subtitle is The Guided Path from Trauma to Profound Freedom and Inner Peace. The book is a journey. It shares, I almost joke around, Vishen, that it took me 42 years to write this book. It's like a life journey. And it shares the journey of what it means to live with unresolved trauma, which all of us are experiencing right now, whether it's trauma with a big T or trauma with a small t. And big T trauma is being violently abused or any kind of catastrophic event. A big T trauma could be living through repeated forms of neglect as a child, whereas small t trauma could be being bullied or being told you were stupid. And all of these traumatic events in our life, whether they be big T or small t, have a tremendous effect on our nervous system. My therapist once said to me that your trauma affects the way you brush your teeth. So the traumas in our past that we all have, no one is exempt from this, especially those of us that are alive right now. We've all lived through a worldwide global pandemic. That is trauma. And so expressing that and accepting that is the first step. And this journey shares my vulnerable truth of what it meant to run from that trauma through drugs and alcohol, through workaholism, through codependency, what it meant to remember that trauma at 36 years old and crack into that memory. And then the healing path that I've underwent, the devotional healing path that I have underwent to get to freedom and inner peace. And you know me, I wouldn't put my face on this cover with that subtitle, The Guided Path from Trauma to Profound Freedom and Inner Peace, if I didn't mean it, stand by it, and in my full body, fully express that. And so in my story, I help the reader recognize that they're not alone. And my intention is to give the reader the path that worked for me so that they can know there's a way out.
You said that in your 30s, you remembered the trauma. Explain that for a moment. What do you mean by that? Is it a certain awareness that you're carrying a trauma and the memory of where it came from?
By 36 years old, I was probably 11 years sober. I had written half a dozen books or more. I was on Oprah. I was on your stages. I was working and doing a lot of good work in the world and really helping a lot of people. But I was really falling apart on the inside. I was cracking into something. And I didn't understand why I was a drug addict 11 years ago. I didn't understand why I was such a workaholic. I didn't understand why I was so anxious and why everything I did had to be so controlled. And I started to notice that I was really cracking into something that I was unaware what would be revealed. But I was having meltdown after meltdown and hitting my knees and saying, I can't go on like this. I can't go on like this. And the stress of trying to hold it all together and control my life started to really get the best of me. At that point, I was really also having a lot of change in my life. I was thinking about trying to have my first child, and my husband left his job to work with me. And so there's a lot of change and shifts. And that can be a typical time when an unresolved memory or a dissociated memory can come back to the surface, particularly when we are going through a big personal life change. And so in this experience, I really was cracking into something, and I had a dream. And in the dream, I had this memory or this experience of really being an adult, confronting the fact that I had been abused sexually as a child. And I woke up in the morning, and it was the most real feeling I'd ever known. It was like the most profoundly real experience. And instead of, going into it and looking into it, I was like, no way, pushing that down, never talking about that again. I went to therapy a few days later, and my therapist just said a few leading statements that allowed me to fully accept and remember that memory. And that memory came flooding back in, not all the details, but the full knowing. And in that moment, I was extremely terrified, but I was also relieved because I could see, oh, that's why I was a cocaine addict. That's why I've been a workaholic. That's why I've been XYZ. And really, really noticing that this first moment in my life, I really knew why I was how I was. And that began my journey in trauma recovery.
What is a first step that we can do if we suspect that we might be carrying some trauma below the surface that we're unaware of?
Well, we're all carrying trauma below the surface that we're either aware of or unaware of, but either way, we've been pushing it down. I really want to be very real about that. The small T traumas are big. The experiences of being neglected, even for a moment, or a memory, or one experience of being told you're stupid by a teacher, anything like that can really have a lingering effect. And so whether you're aware of these stories or you're not, the first step is to just notice the ways that you're very reactive. Notice how notice the parts of yourself that are extreme. Maybe you get hooked on alcohol or drugs. Maybe you are very codependent in relationships. Maybe you're a workaholic. Maybe you're a rager. Maybe you just numb out and hide out on the couch. What are the things that you do to avoid feeling deeper feelings? That is known as a trigger. What triggers you into those feelings? And then what is the response to that trigger, right? So how do you act when you feel out of control? How do you act when you feel like someone's taking advantage of you? And those reactive behaviors are the first step to becoming curious about what's underneath. Just noticing them, witnessing them, not judging them, being at ease and just looking closely. And that's actually one of the exercises I offer up in the first chapter of the book, or the second chapter of the book, which is to become familiar with your triggers and the ways that you respond to them. And I have the reader write, what is my trigger? It could be like, somebody told me I'm stupid, or I'm at work and something feels out of control. What triggers me? How does it make me feel? And then what do I do to respond to that trigger? How do I run from that trigger? How do I avoid it?
Tonight, I'm actually meant to be having a session with my therapist, in fact, after this podcast, and her name is Shelley Lefko. She actually deals with childhood beliefs that we carry with us, and she uses a treatment to extract those beliefs. But why I'm working with her and why I'm happy and vocal to say that I have a therapist is because I've started to become more and more aware through interviews with people like you about these traumas that we all carry. And recently something happened. Someone said something about me that wasn't true online, and it was just bullshit. It shouldn't have bothered me, but it really, really, really bothered me. And I was sitting down and trying to understand why. And I remembered how when I was 13 years old, I was trying to break up a fight in school, stopping a young 7-year-old in my school from being bullied by a 15-year-old. And for some reason, the principal thought I was responsible for that. I got grounded. I had to stay back after school. But the worst thing was when I went back to my mom and I told my mom that the principal had accused me of being in a fight, my mom believed the principal and not me.
There you go.
And so being accused of something I didn't do became super freaking traumatic. And even though it was a stupid comment online, it just triggered me.
Yeah.
And I'm working with my therapist tonight to heal that, to reverse that. And I wanted to share that because, 10 years ago, if you said, oh, I'm seeing a therapist, people assume that there's something wrong with you. But I think today, it's actually sexy, and it's actually like positive to date people or to see people or to have friends who are openly willing to share, working through their shit with a therapist. So I really, really believe in what you're saying, and I really applaud you for being so open about what you're experiencing as well.
I would love to dig into this with you for a moment if you're comfortable.
Yeah, for sure.
So I've been practicing for a decade with my therapist, who is a very key player in this book. And I actually joke with her, I'm like, who do you think is going to play you in the movie? But she's a huge role in this book. And I have multiple therapists that I reference throughout this book. One of the processes that I've been practicing with my therapist for a decade is called internal family systems therapy, and IFS. And I now am trained in it. I recently just did the training. And in IFS, there's a belief system that we have all different parts of ourselves. And so in your case, you beautifully spoke on behalf of this child part that was blamed for something he didn't do. I imagine that you've built up a lot of forms of protection to ever have to face that feeling ever, right? By the way, first I want to just get some buy-in. Are you comfortable just going a little bit deeper with this? Like we can start your therapy session now.
I actually think this is really cool. Yeah, let's
go. Yeah. So what do you notice right now? Just take a moment to just tune into your system, in your nervous system, into your body, into your thoughts. And what do you notice about how you're feeling right now in this triggered response to this online experience?
So I feel a mild degree of anger, and I feel this tenseness just below my heart.
Tenseness. Okay.
It's right over here. I can feel it in my chest.
Beautiful. Does it have a color or any imagery around it?
Black. It's black.
It's black. Okay. Does it have a gender or an age?
It's female.
It's a female.
Yeah.
And what? What was it?
It's female because I associated with my mom not believing me. And 14 is because that was the age this happened to me.
It's a 14-year-old part that's female, and it's black, and it's in your chest. And how else would you describe it? You said there's a tinge of anger, but is there any other way you might describe?
Yeah,
anger.
I'm angry with the school principal because for months after that, every time she would see me, and I was a top student in my school, like I was like the role model student. She would say, "Hi, hey, Vishen, nice to see you're not fighting today." And I would tell her I never got into that fight.
Okay,
and
so
then
she's angry.
She would just walk away. It's like so even right now, when I think about that, it pisses me off.
Okay, let's work with that anger.
I never got to state my innocence.
Beautiful. Okay. So there's anger, and is there anything else that might be here right now with us, another part of you that's here in addition to the anger?
No, it's that. It's that.
It's the anger. Okay. Now, how do you, Vishen, feel towards the anger?
The anger feels like it's a 14-year-old. It's a teenage anger.
Mm-hmm. I understand that. So you've described it beautifully.
It feels irrational. Like when I think about it, it feels completely irrational. I don't even know if my school principal is still alive, right?
Okay. So you feel like there's a part of you that wants to name it irrational, right? There's a part of you that's trying to sort of minimize it a bit. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Can we ask that minimizer part of you just to step aside and like go sit by the candle and like have a cup of tea and just take a break for a moment? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got a nice relaxing room he can hang out in, or she can hang out or whatever. Okay. So minimizer is stepped aside. Can we get to know a little bit more about the anger? Is the anger still with us right now?
It's no, it's actually not.
Who's here now?
I don't know. I just don't feel the anger anymore. When I ask that part to go and sit aside, I just don't.
Okay, cool. So now there's a shutdown part, a part that says, I don't feel it anymore.
Okay.
Is it kind of numb? Like a little bit like, I don't want to do this?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, cool. Would you like to just talk to that part for just a moment? The part that's like, no, thanks.
Yes. Let's talk to that part.
That seems safer, right? Okay, great. Right. How do you feel towards the no thanks part?
I feel it's blocking something. This is going to get triggered again.
Okay. So you're noticing that it's big. It's a lot of stuff that's coming up. And I want to just extend a lot of compassion to you in this moment for being so courageous to even speak publicly about this deep thing, and to have the therapist that you have, and to do that kind of work. And I want to say thank you to the part that sort of numbs out right now, because it's doing a really good job of protecting you here, right here now. Okay. And so how do you feel towards that part that just numbed out? Is there any just sort of gratitude or any feelings toward that part?
Now I'm starting to feel it. Now I'm starting to feel sadness.
Sadness is underneath it. Beautiful. You're doing a really good job with this model. Beautiful. So there's a lot of layers here. So we've got the protectors, which are anger and numbing out. We've got that other protector that was I don't even remember. We put him in the side and he's having a drink in the corner. Yeah. So there's a lot of parts that are protecting that sadness. Okay. So how do you in this moment feel towards that sadness?
I feel like I wish I could hug that 14-year-old self of mine, because nobody believed that was just trying to stop a 7-year-old from being bullied, and got accused of being in a fight with the bully. I just want to hug that, because nobody.
You want to hug him.
That.
You want to hug him.
Not the teachers, not the principal, not his parents, and he was just trying to do good.
Would you mind just closing your eyes for a moment? Do you feel comfortable just doing that, and just give yourself a moment? Is there a place that would feel safe for him to come to with you? Is there a place where you would feel safe giving him a hug?
Yeah.
Do you want to describe that?
Well, it's the grounds of the school where this happened.
Okay. And do you see yourself, your adult self there with him?
Yeah, I do.
And what do you want to do?
Just want to give him a hug. Let him know that I know he meant well. I know that all of this stuff happening, the accusations, the grounding, all the stuff happening, it's just adults being silly.
Beautiful. Give him a hug. Do you want to give him a hug?
Yeah. I'm giving him a hug.
Okay, nice. How does he feel having that hug from you?
He feels good. He feels good. He feels believed. He feels seen. He feels trust.
How do you feel in your system now, having had that experience of hugging him?
I feel good.
You feel good? Okay. Can you make a commitment to him right now that when he gets activated and triggered, that you'll meet him at the school and hug him?
Oh, I love that. Yeah. I'm making that commitment to him.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So he knows that you're there for him. Yeah. And you're committed to him.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Just settle into that feeling for a moment before we end and just feel it in your body. Remember it in your body. Remember that visual in your mind. See it in your mind's eye so you can get back there when you need to. And we're going to say, do you want to invite him to hang out with you today a little bit and just like sit with you at work? And okay, cool.
I have Vishen right next to me right now.
Okay, good. He's going to sit right next to you. Okay, great. So let's let him in on how cool you are and all the amazing things that you do. Okay, great. He's with us. I want to thank him for joining us and feeling safe enough to be with you and me right now and everybody watching. And I want to really extend a lot of courage and just acknowledgement of your courage and your capacity to have that creative thinking and to be so compassionate towards that part. It was really excellent.
Gabby. It was actually a really healing experience for me. Beautiful. Thank you so much. And
well, you've done a lot of work on yourself. And so you went there, you were able to go there. But just to unpack what we did, the boy is an exiled part that you've been, kind of like managing, right? Like, don't feel that stuff. I want to go there. And then all those protector parts were there, really big anger, dissociation, managing it, all of that was up. And when we allowed those protector parts to step aside, you could get to the sadness, you could get to that deeper part. And then what we did was all of us have within us this self energy, curiosity, compassion, courage, the energy of calmness. And when you said, I want to hug him, that's when I knew you had a direct line from him to that self energy. And you coming into that visual of being with him at the school and hugging him meant that you were showing up for him as self in your most resourced, undamaged, adult, courageous, compassionate, creative, calm self. And in that place of self, you can soothe him. But we have to let those protector parts just settle down in order to get that access. Okay. So now you've got a contract with him. You can retrieve him at any time. You can go into that school and just take care of him at any time. And you did a really nice job, Vishen. That was beautiful. Thank you for being so vulnerable and so willing to go there with me.
Thank you, Gabby. And he's right here right now. Hey, what do you think of that? He says he thinks you're pretty cool.
So he feels good towards me. That's nice. I feel great about him too. Yeah.
That's amazing. So this new book goes deep into these ideas. And will people learn how to do this to their own traumas through this book?
Yeah, this is one of the many methods I share in the book. This being the most profound, and so much so that I went and got trained in it myself because I was like, this is life-changing for me. So IFS, internal family systems, is really about learning to let that self be the internal parent. And all of the methods in this book, whether they be somatic experiencing or EMDR or EFT or spiritual practices, are all designed to help the reader tap into their own ability to self-soothe and self-regulate and respect and honor all of their parts. And so this was a beautiful opportunity to demo with you because you got to get a chance to see what is inside this book. Yeah.
Oh, this is beautiful, Gabby. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, I know there are lots of other techniques you share in the book, and I'm hoping that the listeners of this podcast, if you like what you just heard, definitely check out the book, because in the book, Gabby also talks about breathing exercises, the power pose, grounding your body, the heart or head hold, affirmations, tapping on the gamut point, which is a type of EFT technique. And Gabby, thank you so much for this incredible podcast. So I got to say, this is one of the most unique guest appearances we've ever had on the Mind Valley podcast. Firstly, your presence is powerful. I love how much you notice about everyone that you bring on, that you interacted with. Like your compliment with Craig was so heartfelt. What you noticed about my trauma, your help in helping me deal with that and hug my 14-year-old self was really appreciated. I just want to say I became a big fan today. This is amazing. You are amazing. And I am going to be endorsing your work and your book as much as I can. So everyone, you got a taste of the power of this remarkable woman's mind. And now what I want to encourage you to do is to go check her out on Amazon. Type in Gabrielle Happy Days on Google. You're going to see the first link is the Amazon page. Check out the Amazon page. Add Happy Days to your Amazon cart. And by the way, Gabby's also got the best Amazon page I've seen of any book in the last 1 year of doing this podcast. All her books are listed there. So you might want to check out Spirit Junkie. I recommend that. That was the first book from Gabby that I read. Or The Universe Has Your Back. I think these are very relevant for the Mind Valley audience. So super excited to have you all on this conversation with us. Gabby, it's an honor having you as a guest. Thank you so much. And now
it's been wonderful to see you. Thank you.